My name is Richard. I'm 58 years old, and I've spent most of my life building everything I have from nothing. I wasn't born into money. I worked construction jobs, saved every dollar, invested smartly, and eventually ended up owning a few rental properties. I'm not wealthy like those people on TV, but I'm comfortable. I raised my only daughter, Emily, to value honesty, responsibility, and family. Or at least I thought I did. Emily married a man named Jason about 3 years ago. From the moment I met him, I felt something was off. He always talked big, business ideas, investments, future plans, but never actually did anything. He had champagne dreams on a soda budget, and my daughter fell right into that fantasy with him. Lately, they were obsessed with buying a house. Not just any house, a huge luxury house in the suburbs. They said they wanted to start their future right. I told them it was okay to start small, build up slowly, just like I did. But they didn't want that. They wanted instantly perfect. So when they said they were applying for a loan, I congratulated them and stepped back. I had no idea what was coming. A month passed, and something strange happened. I received a letter from a bank I had never dealt with before. It said, "Welcome to your new mortgage agreement." It listed my name, my address, and a $900,000 home loan. My heart dropped. I almost couldn't breathe. I drove straight to the bank the next morning, sat down with the loan officer, and asked him to explain. He pulled up the documents, and there it was, my signature. Except it wasn't mine. Emily had forged my name on every page, and Jason had notarized it using one of his business contacts. The bank officer said, "Well, Mr. Thompson, since the documents are signed, you're legally responsible for repayment." I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just sat there quietly. Then I said, "Thank you for your time," and walked out. On the drive home, I thought about every birthday, every Christmas, every late-night conversation where Emily told me I was her hero. And now, she stole from me, lied to me, risked my future for her fantasy. I wanted to confront her immediately, but something inside me said, wait. If I burst into their new house screaming, they would deny everything, twist the story, cry, play victim, maybe even convince others I was being cruel. So I decided to do something different. I played along. I said nothing. I stopped mentioning money. I didn't even bring up the loan letter. I waited. And just like I expected, 2 weeks later, Emily called me all cheerful. "Dad, we got the house. You have to come to the housewarming party." Oh yes, I would be there. I contacted a lawyer, then another, then a property deed specialist, and finally, a real estate attorney who helped me file the legal documents to claim the house as mine. Because legally, the house was mine. The loan was in my name, meaning the property title belonged to me. Every document backed it, every signature, even the forged one. The law didn't care about family feelings. The house was legally mine, and I didn't have to tell them. Not yet. On the day of their big housewarming party, they decorated the house, brought friends, planned speeches about how hard they worked. I arrived early. I used the keys the mortgage company provided. I walked in, sat down in their brand new living room, poured myself a cup of coffee, and waited. When they walked in, the look on their faces, priceless. Emily froze. Jason dropped the gift basket he was carrying. "Dad, What are you doing here?" I smiled, calm, controlled. "I'm sitting in my living room." Emily laughed nervously. "Tad, what—" I stood up slowly. "Emily, I know you forged my signature for the loan. I know Jason helped you. And I know you thought I wouldn't notice." She went pale. Jason tried to speak, but words stumbled out of his mouth like broken glass. We were going to pay it back. It was just to qualify, just temporary." I raised my hand. "Stop. I don't want excuses." Then I handed them the copies of the legal paperwork. "This house is legally mine. Every room, every door, every light switch. You forged my name. You committed fraud. But instead of sending both of you to prison, I decided on something else." Emily's voice cracked. "Dad, please." I pointed towards the door. "You have 10 minutes to get out of my house." Emily stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Her eyes were wide, wet, and shaking. Jason, on the other hand, tried to recover his fake confidence. He puffed his chest out and said, "You can't just kick us out. This house is in our name." I kept my gaze steady and calm. "No, Jason. The loan is in my name, which means the property title is attached to my financial liability. Legally, this house belongs to me. You two are simply occupying it." I placed the paperwork on the marble kitchen counter. "I didn't come here to argue. I came to inform you." Emily covered her mouth like she was trying to hold in a scream. "Dad, please, we didn't mean to hurt you." I raised an eyebrow. "You forged my signature. You lied to my face. You risked my credit, my retirement, my stability. Which part of that wasn't meant to hurt me?" She stepped forward, tears spilling. "I just wanted a life where I didn't have to worry. All my friends have houses like this. I thought you'd be proud." I shook my head slowly. "Proud? Emily, I would have helped you if you asked. I always have. But you didn't ask. You stole." Jason suddenly snapped, slamming his hand on the table. "We needed the house. You have money just sitting around. You wouldn't even miss it." And there it was. The truth. He didn't see me as family. He saw me as a wallet, a credit score, a stepping stone. "Jason," I said, my voice low, "I worked for everything I have. I didn't inherit it. I didn't cheat my way into it. I earned it. And you two wanted to skip the entire process." I let the silence sink in. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the tension. "You have 10 minutes. Pack what you can carry. You'll need to deal with everything else later." Emily ran to me, grabbing my arm. "Dad, no, please. We'll pay the loan, I promise. Give us time. Give us a chance. Don't do this to us." I looked at her hand on my sleeve. For a moment, I remembered her as a child, holding my hand while crossing the street. I closed my eyes for 1 second, but I didn't break. "I already gave you chances. I gave you trust, and you broke it." Jason grabbed her shoulders. "We can fight this legally." I almost laughed. "Jason, the only thing you'll accomplish in court is digging yourselves deeper. Fraud carries prison time. Do you really want me to show the DA the forged documents?" Jason's face lost all color. He knew I was right. He knew he didn't stand a chance. Emily let go of me and slumped to the floor, crying. "I didn't think this would happen. I didn't think you'd react like this." "That's because you thought I'd always protect you, no matter what. And I did. Until you stopped valuing me as a father and started using me as an ATM." Those words hit her harder than any yelling could. After a long silence, Emily finally stood. Her voice was small, broken. "We'll go." They packed in silence. A few clothes, some personal things. Jason tried to pick up a TV. "Leave it," I said. "Everything purchased under the loan stays." He muttered curses under his breath, but he obeyed. When they stepped outside, I followed them to the porch. Emily turned to me one last time. "Dad, is there any way to fix this?" I sighed. "Yes, but not today. Not by begging, not by pretending. If you want to fix this, start by taking responsibility. Get jobs, pay your own bills, prove that you can live without stealing from anyone." She nodded slowly, tears still falling. Jason didn't look back. They got into their car and drove away. The neighborhood was silent. I walked back inside the house, my house, and sat down. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. But the story didn't end there. Oh no. The fallout came fast. Family called me, friends called me. Emily cried to everyone that I had kicked her out and ruined her life. And opinions began flying. "She's your daughter. How could you do that? You should forgive her. Family is more important than money." But none of them were the ones who had to live with the consequences. I listened to everyone, and then I said one thing. Family is important, but trust is more important. And once it's broken, everything else falls apart. Days passed. Weeks passed. Emily and Jason moved to a small rental apartment. Jason finally got a job working construction. Ironically, the same kind of job I worked when I was young. Emily started working at a local bakery. They struggled, but they survived. And one day, after nearly 8 months, Emily came to see me. She didn't come with tears. She didn't come with excuses. She came with a handwritten letter. It said, "Dad, I'm sorry. I was selfish. I was blind. You raised me to work, to build, to earn, and I tried to skip the journey. I see that now. I don't deserve forgiveness yet, but I want to earn it." I didn't say anything at first. I just hugged her. For the first time in a long time. Maybe trust could rebuild. Maybe not fully, not quickly, but at least now she was trying. And that was enough to start. After Emily hugged me that day, I realized something important. Forgiveness isn't a single moment. It's a process, and hers had just begun. But Jason was a different story. He hadn't come with her. No apology, no letter, no accountability. Only silence. And silence sometimes tells the real truth. Over the next few weeks, Emily would stop by occasionally. Not to ask for money, not to ask for anything. Sometimes she just sat with me, helping me make coffee, helping clean a little, asking how my day was. Small steps, real steps, the kind that can't be faked. But Jason, all I heard were rumors. People said he blamed me for ruining his life. He told his friends I stole the house from them. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. But I didn't respond. I didn't chase him. I didn't defend myself. Some fights aren't worth the energy. One evening, Emily came by after work. She seemed nervous, twisting her keys in her hand. "Dad," she said softly, "I think Jason and I need time apart." I simply nodded. I didn't celebrate. I didn't say, "I told you so." I said, "If that's what you feel is right, I'll support you." Her eyes watered, but she didn't cry. She was stronger now, more grounded, more like the daughter I raised. Weeks passed. She moved into a shared apartment with 2 roommates. She picked up extra hours. She started budgeting, watching sales, learning to live within reality instead of fantasy. And slowly, she looked lighter, happier. Meanwhile, I kept the house. Not to live in, I had my own place, but because it was a reminder of what happens when trust is broken and when accountability heals more than punishment ever could. Then, one afternoon, I got a call from Emily. Her voice was shaking again, but not with guilt this time, with fear. "Dad, Jason showed up at my apartment screaming, saying you brainwashed me, saying we owe him the life he deserves." I closed my eyes, took a slow breath. "Are you safe?" "Yes. My roommate called the police. They made him leave. But, Dad, he said he's coming for you next." I didn't react with anger. I didn't react with fear. I've seen men like Jason my entire life. Men who want everything but earn nothing. They always end the same way, face to face with the consequences they spent their life running from. That evening, I sat in the living room of the house, the same house they once pretended was theirs. The sun was setting through the large windows, the same moment where months ago they found me sitting waiting. I waited again. I had a feeling he'd come. And I was right. Headlights pulled up. A car door slammed. Heavy footsteps approached. Jason didn't knock. He barged inside like he still owned the air in the room. "You ruined everything," he spat. "I could have had a good life, a big house, a future." I leaned back in the chair, calm as a stone. "You could still have a good life, just not one you stole." Jason laughed, bitter and angry. "You think you're better than me?" "No," I said. "I think I worked harder than you." He clenched his fists. For a second I thought he might try something stupid, but then the door opened behind him. Emily had followed him. She stood there, not scared, not crying, just firm. "Jason," she said quietly, "we didn't lose a life. We're finally starting one." Jason turned to her, disbelief flooding his face. "You're choosing him?" Emily shook her head. "I'm choosing myself, for the first time ever." Jason stood in silence. Something in his eyes cracked. Not anger, not victory, just the realization that the world wasn't going to bend for him anymore. He walked out. No dramatic slam, no screaming, just defeat. Emily sat beside me on the couch. For a while, neither of us spoke. The house was quiet, peaceful. She looked at me. "Dad, can I start over?" I put my arm around her shoulders. "You already have." But this wasn't the end. Healing takes time. Trust rebuilds slowly. And fate wasn't finished with us yet, because something unexpected was coming, something that would test both of us in a way we never saw coming. Life settled into something calmer after that night. Emily focused on building herself back up, and I focused on letting myself trust her again one small moment at a time. We didn't talk about the house anymore. It stood there quietly, like a symbol of everything that had gone wrong and everything we were trying to rebuild. But life has a way of testing you just when you think the storm has passed. One afternoon, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, a polite voice said, "Mr. Thompson, this is Dr. Shaw from Riverview Medical. Your son-in-law, Jason Miller, has been admitted." My stomach tightened. Even after everything, I didn't want anything bad to happen to him. "Is he all right?" I asked. The doctor hesitated just long enough to tell me the answer wasn't simple. "He's stable now, but he was brought in after collapsing at work. Severe dehydration, exhaustion, and malnutrition. It appears he's been under a significant amount of stress." I closed my eyes. I knew what that meant. Jason was a man who built his life around appearances. When the show was gone, so was his direction. I went to the hospital not because I owed him anything, but because Emily deserved to know the truth before the world twisted it. When I entered the room, Jason looked small. Not physically, but emotionally. His confidence, his arrogance, gone. He glanced at me, surprised, but too weak to pretend. "You came," he whispered. "Yes," I said. "I'm not your enemy, Jason. I never was." He laughed softly, but it sounded broken. "I thought if I could give Emily that house, she'd think I was enough." I sat down in the chair beside him. Being enough doesn't come from what you own. It comes from who you are. Jason stared at the ceiling. I didn't know how to be that. For the first time, he wasn't performing. He wasn't blaming. He was just honest. And honesty is the beginning of every change. Emily arrived soon after. When she saw him, her expression wasn't hatred or pity. It was quiet sadness. She walked to his bedside and took a seat, not touching him, just sitting near. They didn't speak for a long time. Sometimes silence carries more meaning than words ever could. Finally, Jason said, "I'm sorry for all of it. I didn't know how to stop." Emily wiped her eyes. "I know, but we can't go back. We can only go forward, separately." He nodded. He didn't beg. He didn't argue. He accepted it. That acceptance was the first real growth I had ever seen in him. After that day, Jason checked himself into counseling, got into a recovery program for financial addiction and self-worth dependency issues. Emily continued improving her life step by step. And me? I still had that house. The house that broke us. The house that changed everything. One day, Emily said, "Dad, what are you going to do with it?" I looked at her. "I don't know yet, but I want it to mean something, not just be a reminder of mistakes." She smiled softly. "Then, maybe, one day, it can be someone else's beginning instead of our ending." And that thought stayed with me, because the past doesn't have to define us. Sometimes it teaches us how to build differently. But the world wasn't finished testing us, because a letter arrived in the mail the next week. A legal notice. A name I didn't expect. Jason's father. He was coming, and he wasn't coming to apologize. The letter sat on my kitchen table for a full hour before I opened it. The return address was from a town 3 states away, written in heavy, forceful handwriting. I already had a feeling what it was. Emily sat across from me, her tea untouched. "Dad, should I read it?" she asked gently. "No," I said. "This one's mine." I unfolded the letter. The message was short, direct, and sharp enough to feel like a threat. "I heard you took my son's life from him. I'll be in town next week. We'll talk." No signature, just the weight of anger pressed into ink. Emily stared at the letter, her face tightening. Jason's father. He was never around much when Jason and I were together. Jason said they weren't close. I nodded. Sometimes distance makes guilt louder. Jason's father, from everything I had heard, was a man who believed life owed him something. And now I was the convenient villain in his story. But I didn't fear him. I'd faced louder storms, harder men. I had lived through real battles, poverty, loss, and rebuilding from nothing. A man with a grudge, that wasn't new to me. Days passed, slow and tense. I spent more time at the house, the big house, the one that started all of this. It was quiet, but not empty. It felt like a lesson, like a scar turned into a reminder. I was cleaning the back patio the day he arrived. A black pickup pulled into the driveway, engine rumbling like a threat. A tall, broad man stepped out, gray beard, hard eyes, shoulders stiff from years of pride. He didn't knock, He walked right up to me like he had ownership of the ground. "So," he said, voice low, "you're the man who thinks he can destroy lives and walk away smiling?" I put the broom aside. "No, I'm the man who refused to let someone destroy mine." His jaw flexed. "You took my son's house from him, his future." "Your son forged loan documents," I replied evenly. "He committed a felony. I could have put him in prison. I didn't. I let him walk. I let him rebuild." The man scoffed. "You think that makes you noble?" "No," I said. "It makes me a father." That stopped him. Just for a second. His eyes flickered, not in weakness, but in something deeper, the truth he didn't want to feel. "Jason told me you humiliated him, made him feel small." I shook my head. Jason made himself small by taking shortcuts. I didn't have to push him down. He walked that path. His face tightened. He wasn't here to understand. He was here to win. He stepped closer. Too close. I didn't step back. I'd learned long ago that men like him feed on intimidation. "Let me tell you something," he growled. "You think you're better because you have money, because you made it. But I raised my son to want more than I ever had." I nodded once. "Yes, wanting more is good, but trying to skip the work? That's where you failed him." His nostrils flared. He raised a hand like he might shove me, and that's when a voice cut through the tension. "Don't you dare touch him." Emily stood in the doorway. Strong, steady. Not a trembling, broken version of herself, but the woman she had grown into. Jason's father looked at her, surprised. "Emily, I'm sorry you got caught in the middle of this." She stepped forward. "I wasn't caught. I chose. I enabled. I wanted the house. I wanted the perfect life. I wanted the lie just as much as Jason." I looked at her. Every word was true, and she was brave enough to say it. But I learned, and Jason is learning. And this house is not our future anymore. Jason's father shook his head. "So that's it? You just walk away? You leave him with nothing?" Emily took a breath. "No. He has something now. He has honesty. He has responsibility. He finally has a chance to build something real." The man looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Something inside him cracked, not loudly, just quiet enough to change everything. He sank heavily onto one of the patio chairs. Not defeated, just tired. "I didn't know," he said finally. "Jason didn't tell me any of that." Because guilt tells lies, and shame screams louder than truth. We all sat silently for a while. The wind moved through the trees. The house, the symbol of pride, betrayal, loss, and rebuilding, stood silent. Finally, Jason's father spoke again. "So what happens now?" I looked at him, at Emily, at the weight we had all carried for too long. "Now," I said, "we figure out what meaning this house should have." Emily nodded slowly. "Not a trophy, not a punishment. A beginning." But life is never straightforward. Just when you think things are settling, something shifts. That evening, as the sun went down, my phone rang. It was the bank. The voice was urgent. "Mr. Thompson, we need to discuss the loan. There has been a complication." I felt the air change. "What kind of complication?" The voice hesitated. "A second forged document has surfaced. This one wasn't signed by your daughter." My heart froze. Emily looked at me. Then who signed it? I already knew the answer. Jason. But the bank representative continued. This one was signed by someone else entirely. Someone close to you. The world went quiet. There was only one other person who had access to my documents. My brother. The story wasn't done. Not even close.
I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I simply sat there in that living room chair and watched the two of them struggle to figure out what was happening. Finally, Daniel cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "Look, we didn't mean for it to go this far," he said, as if that made anything better. Avery stepped closer to me, her voice soft, like she was talking to a child. "Dad, you always said you wanted to help me. You said family is everything. I was just trying to build a life. I thought you'd understand." I slowly rose from the chair. "Avery, taking care of your family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself to the point of destruction. Helping you doesn't mean being lied to. You took my identity. You took my trust. You took my future." She wrapped her arms around herself, shaking her head. "No, you're being dramatic. You have retirement savings. You'll be fine." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was unbelievable. She truly didn't understand. Retirement savings? The bank froze my accounts the moment they saw suspicious loan activity. They think I'm laundering money. I had to hire a lawyer just to keep from being arrested. Her face drained of color. Daniel swallowed hard, but still tried to look confident. Okay, we'll explain to the bank that you knew about the loan. It'll smooth over." I turned to him slowly. "Are you out of your mind? The bank has every phone call, every signature, every login, screenshots. They know exactly which computer the loan application came from. And let me guess, your house, the dream gift," I pointed toward the walls around us, "was in your name only. Not Avery's, not mine, yours." Avery turned to him sharply. "Daniel, is that true?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. She saw it in his face. She backed away from him slowly, the betrayal hitting her in waves. "You told me Dad said we could do it. You said he agreed. You said he was fine with it." Daniel's jaw clenched, panic flickering in his eyes. "I thought I could fix it before he found out. I needed the house for us, for our future." Avery covered her mouth, tears streaming. No. I let them spiral, because they needed to feel it. They needed to understand the damage. When the crying and frantic excuses quieted down, I finally spoke again. "Avery, I wasn't going to tell you this. I didn't want to scare you. But the bank will press charges unless we prove identity theft, which means you will likely be questioned. And Daniel," I looked at him directly, "and you too." Daniel stepped forward quickly, voice cracking. No, I can't go to jail. I can't. You're her father. Help us, please." Avery grabbed my arm like a drowning person. "Dad, we'll pay it back. We'll do anything." I stared at her hand, the same hand that forged my signature. Slowly, I removed her fingers. "You can start by packing your things. This house is no longer yours. The bank will seize it, and I'm not stopping them." Daniel's voice broke. "You wouldn't do that. You're better than that." I met his eyes, calm and cold. I was better than that, until my own child taught me I shouldn't be. Avery collapsed into a chair, sobbing. I didn't comfort her, not because I didn't love her, but because love without accountability becomes self-destruction. But there was one thing I didn't tell them. Not yet. I wasn't just filing identity theft charges. I had already recorded every conversation, every admission, including this one. And I had already given my lawyer the go-ahead to pursue full financial recovery and fraud prosecution. They thought pain had peaked. They didn't know it was only beginning. And as I looked at them sitting in that living room, my living room, I realized something. This wasn't just betrayal. This was the moment I stopped being the father who always rescued everyone. This was the moment I finally rescued myself. Avery didn't move from the chair. She stared at Daniel like she was seeing him for the first time in her life. The silence in that living room was heavy, thick, suffocating. Daniel kept pacing back and forth, running his hands through his hair. "We can still fix this," he muttered to himself. "We just need time." Avery finally spoke, her voice raw. "Time? Daniel, we lied, we stole, we destroyed my father's life, and you told me it was okay." Daniel spun around. "I did it for us, for our future. I wanted us to have a life that wasn't small and pathetic. Your dad was never going to help us the way we needed." His words hit her like a punch. Avery stood, tears still falling, but her face hardening. "My father gave me everything, every chance, every opportunity. He trusted me, and I threw him away for you." Daniel's expression changed instantly. Anger, panic, fear, all twisting together. "Oh, don't start acting holy now. You signed it too." She shook her head slowly. "No, I didn't. You forged my father's signature, you submitted the loan, you logged into his email, and you told me you talked to him about it. You lied to me just like we lied to him." Daniel turned to me, desperate now. Tell her you would have said no. Tell her you wouldn't help. Tell her you would have watched us drown." I stared at him with a calm that came from exhaustion. "Yes," I said, "if you came to me with honesty, I would have helped. But you came with deception." Avery's knees almost buckled. She caught the back of the couch to keep steady. "Dad, what are we going to do?" I didn't answer her immediately, because this was the moment she needed to understand the full weight. "Tomorrow morning," I said slowly, "I have a meeting with the bank's fraud investigation department and my attorney. They will decide how to proceed." Daniel stepped forward quickly. "No, you tell them we were all in on it. You say we did it together. Nobody goes to jail. The house stays. We pay it back slowly. Everybody wins." His voice was shaking. He was begging the way a criminal begs when they realize consequences are real. I shook my head. "The house is gone. It will be repossessed. The loan is invalid, and the charges will move forward unless I withdraw my complaint." Avery's eyes flicked to me, hope sparking. "Dad, you can withdraw it?" I nodded. Daniel grabbed her hand immediately. See, he'll do it. He can't send us to jail." I stared at Daniel's hand gripping my daughter's. "Avery, step outside with me. Alone." Daniel froze. "Why?" "Because I want to talk to my daughter," I said flatly. Avery followed me onto the porch. The evening air was cool, quiet, and painfully still. She looked so small standing there. "Dad, I messed up. I know I did, but I didn't want to lose him. I didn't want to fail." I took a slow breath. Failing is not the worst thing that can happen to you. Becoming someone you don't recognize, that is much worse. Her lip trembled. "Can you forgive me?" "I can, but forgiveness does not erase consequences." She nodded, tears falling silently. I wasn't done. "Avery, I need to ask you something, and I want the truth. Did you know the loan was only in Daniel's name?" She hesitated, just a second, but I saw it, and that second was enough. "Yes," I said softly, "you did know." Her face broke. I thought he loved me. I thought we were building something, and I thought you'd get over it." I closed my eyes for a moment. It hurt. It hurt more than anything. "Avery, I love you, but I won't destroy myself to save you from the consequences of your choices." She pressed her hands to her face, sobbing. Inside, I could hear Daniel pacing, panicking, muttering. The storm was just beginning. And in that moment, I realized something else, something sharper, clearer, unavoidable. This wasn't just about the house or the money or betrayal. This was about the kind of person my daughter chose to become, and the kind of person I would have to become now to fix what she broke.
The next morning came quietly, but the weight of what was about to happen pressed heavy on all of us. Avery barely slept. Daniel didn't either. I drove to the bank alone. I needed clarity. I needed truth. I sat in a conference room with my attorney beside me as the fraud investigators laid everything out on the table. Timestamps, digital signatures, emails, camera footage from the notary office, voice recordings. There was no confusion. There was no misunderstanding. There were choices, and those choices had consequences. When the meeting ended, I didn't rush home. I drove to the waterfront, sat in my truck, and let myself feel every ounce of disappointment, love, grief, anger, and exhaustion. I wasn't just fighting for money. I was fighting for myself. I returned to the house in the late afternoon. Avery and Daniel sat on the living room floor like children, waiting to hear their fate. Avery looked up first. "Dad, what did you decide?" I didn't answer her immediately. I looked at both of them. Really looked. Daniel wasn't remorseful. He was terrified. Avery wasn't malicious. She was lost. "I withdrew the felony charges," I said quietly. Avery gasped, relief flooding her face. Daniel exhaled loudly, slumping back. But I wasn't finished. "However," I continued, "the bank will still reclaim the house. The loan is being reversed. The property will be seized within 30 days. Daniel jumped to his feet. "You can't do that. We have nowhere to go." I looked him dead in the eyes. "You had somewhere to go. You just tried to steal a better place." He opened his mouth to argue, to shout, but Avery placed a hand on his arm. "Stop," she whispered. "Just stop." Tears welled in her eyes again, but this time something was different. This time, the tears came from acceptance. "Dad, I understand, and I'm sorry. Truly." For the first time in this whole nightmare, I believed her. I stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I love you. That never changed. But love without responsibility becomes poison. You have to rebuild now, on your own terms, not through lies." She nodded, crying quietly. Daniel stared between us, his face pale and trembling. He knew what was coming, and I didn't sugarcoat it. "Daniel," I said, "I am filing a civil claim against you. You will repay every cent the bank cannot recover." His face twisted. "You're ruining me." I shook my head slowly. "You ruined yourself." Avery didn't defend him this time. She didn't speak. She simply stood up, walked into the bedroom they had shared, and began packing her things. I helped her carry the boxes to her car. Not because I had to, but because healing doesn't come from cruelty. It comes from boundaries. She hugged me before she left, tighter than she had since she was a child. "I'll make this right. One day I hope you see I learned from this." "I hope so too," I whispered back. I watched her drive away. The sun was starting to set. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. But there was peace in it. Real peace, not the peace of pretending everything is fine, but the peace that comes from finally choosing yourself.
I sat back down in that same chair in the living room, the one I was sitting in when they first walked in. And I realized something important. I hadn't lost my daughter. I had given her the chance to find herself. And I hadn't lost my life. I had reclaimed it. Not every story ends with everyone hugging, healed and happy. Some stories end with truth. Some stories end with growth. Some stories end with strength. This one ended with all three. And that was enough.